Recorded.
That's fine.
Are you not?
Hey, everybody, what's up? I'm going to tell you our topic before I even say hello. Top economist in the country says this is going to be far worse than a recession. So if you thought this was a recession, no. Also, this world,
the cat just
did the cat just throw herself into the door?
Yes. God, that scared the shit out of me. Okay.
It was like a reverse suicide. She just threw herself into a door rather than out a window.
Oh, she's old, guys. She's old. She's confused.
Old. She's old.
Should I check to see if she's laying there twitching?
No, she might come in here and her head might circle 360. Also, the World Cup is brought to you by literally thousands of the deaths of thousands of migrant workers. Literally thousands. We're going to get into that. Also, there may soon be armed robots on the streets of America. I'm not kidding. We're getting into that. And we have other stories as well. So let's do it. This is Common Censored. I'm Lee Kent, joined by Eleanor Goldfield.
Morning.
And thanks for being here. Please click like, click subscribe, all that stuff. And we're live on a bunch of platforms, including Rockfin, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. All right, let's get going here. So this is a top economist, and a lot of people have been saying, this is going to be a it's going to be tougher times, and this is one of the top economists in the nation. Now, I'll also give the kind of propaganda that he's pushing forward, either ignorance or propaganda. Sometimes it's tough to tell. Sometimes they blend together. I'll give you that as well. But so this is. Goddamn background. Always thwarting me. So this is top economist Mohammed El-Arian says we're not just headed for another recession, but a profound economic and financial shift. And this is coming. I find this interesting because I've covered how we're getting ready for we're being thrust into the great splitting of the world's economies. The U.S. has had economic hegemony in many ways for many years now, and we are seeing that split into two separate economic regions that could have all kinds of ramifications. I mean, obviously, the decreasing of the American empire could be a huge positive, but you could end up with more wars and all kinds of horrible shit if America responds to this.
Well, empires
the way we respond to
typically
things.
go quietly into the night.
You're saying America's not going to just be like, hey, good game, fellas. How about we go get a drink?
It's not going to collapse like a flan.
Flan.
Whatever.
I like the analogy.
Well, so here's the thing.
You speak more Spanish than I do.
I do, and that's why I think that sorry, I had a rock in my sock. That's why. So it's souffle as well. I could have just said souffle. It is French, but we have a lot of French words, not so many Spanish words that we have kind of Americanized. But flan, it sounds a little pretentious, doesn't it?
All foreign words sound pretentious to Americans that only speak English.
What? Okay.
Such as croissant.
Okay,
that's why we have to say
obnoxious.
Croissant.
Okay.
Well, what is the correct Americanized croissant? Croissant.
Yes, it still sounds dumb if you ask a French person.
Exactly, that's my point.
Okay, right. Sorry. Collapse is like a flan.
Well done.
Quietly and gently. That's not how empires collapse.
It's collapse. Just kidding.
It's not collapse unless it's from the Collapse region of France.
It has to come from Collapse. So I believe that be in a region of Rome. Investors and economists have been sounding the recession alarm. Oh, I think I got interrupted in what I was about to say, but or not interrupted. We just got off on a tangent. But that I've talked about the great splitting of the world's economies. But that's coming from people that are willing to acknowledge that the U.S. has had a hegemony and it's wrong to have an empire that just destroys other countries. That's not coming from these kind of top economists that are within the fold. They're within the ruling class system. I'm quoting normally from Richard Wolff and Michael Hudson and people like that. This one is actually one of these kind of empire economists. He's part of the system, which means it's fascinating if even they now are saying, "Oh, shit's about to get fucked up." It's a paraphrasing.
I'd also just like to, not to take us on a different tangent, but the difference between recession, depression, I think these terms lose a lot of their meaning when you consider the fact that most Americans can't afford $1,000 emergency. Most Americans don't have anything to fall back on. So if it's a recession or a depression, it might mean something in strictly economic terms if you look at like GDP or some shit like that. But when you look at the lived experiences of Americans, it doesn't really mean much because it's going to fucking hurt.
Right.
Because there's nowhere to go for more money. There's nowhere to dig into. There are no reserves. So it's just a wicked, horrific depression. The word recession it doesn't fucking mean anything anymore, I don't think. Because recession assumes that like, oh, people are going to have to dip into some savings. Who the fuck has savings?
Yeah, I know. What was it? Oh, well, we'll get to this story. I'll give you a teaser coming. Many of the migrants that built the stadiums for the World Cup have not been paid in 10 months. And one of the quotes from them is, "Unless you're a millionaire, who can go 10 months without getting paid and just coast on savings?" Very few. So, all right. So this is, well, investors and economists have been sounding the recession alarm, but one major economist who has seen warning signs mounting, and this is from Forbes, by the way, so also a mainstream outlet, mounting for many months, say this potential recession is unlike what we're used to. That economist is Mohammed El-Erian, previously the chief executive officer of the massively influential bond market player PIMCO. He also chaired former President Barack Obama's Global Development Council. So this is an empire guy, right? He's a team player of the empire. And even he is sounding this alarm that, oh no, this is not one of these little recessions we've had before. This is something far more serious. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of what he's ignoring in a few minutes. But and I just wanted to say this first sentence also should be talked about, looked into a little deeper. Potential recession is unlike what we're used to. Why do we live in a system where recession that destroys people's lives? It's a nice term, but recession to the rich means recession. Recession to the poor and middle class often means you lose your job, you lose your house, your family, you get divorced because money troubles often cause life troubles. All this other shit. Your family member dies because it can't afford healthcare meds, and you don't have any money to help them out. That's what recession means to a lot of other people. But why do we have an economic system where this is just the norm? The kind we're used to.
I know. It's sick.
So there's a tendency to see economic challenges as temporary, quickly reversible, El-Erian wrote in a commentary for Foreign Affairs, citing the Fed's initial thought.
For some people, again, temporary and quickly reversible. Yeah. Is it quickly reversible to be thrown out of your home?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
The Fed's initial thought that high inflation would be transitory, or the consensus that a recession could be short. The world isn't just teetering on the brink of another recession, he continued. It's in the midst of a profound economic and financial shift. He sees the world experiencing major changes that will outlast the current business cycle. He highlighted 3 trends, which we'll get to in a second. But my belief is that now he's either doing a bit of propaganda for the empire, which is to say, hey, folks, secretly, we know that we're witnessing the economic split of American hegemony, but outwardly, we're just going to say, hey, this recession's going to be tougher than usual. And here's what very well could be coming up. If the petrodollars drop by enough countries, then the dollar will no longer have nearly the power it used to. Inflation will skyrocket. The dollar may go down to like a third of what it what it is now, worth-wise, and it'll those effects will just ripple through the entire society, and the American government will no longer be able to just spend money as much as they want, because all of a sudden printing $1 trillion and handing it to the Pentagon will have a real life impact. Whereas for now, up till now, the petrodollar has kept the dollar strong. So that could be coming. That could be in the cards. That is both terrifying for many, and yet at the same time, if the American empire continues down our path of being an empire that just destroys countries that get in its way, and we don't think about anything environmentally, then it will absolutely be environmental collapse. And of course, that's not even factoring in the fact that we just destroy lives every day with our bombs and our sanctions and our everything else.
Yeah, that's what empires do.
That's what we do. So here are the three major trends that he says are transforming the world economy. First is the shift from insufficient demand to insufficient supply. The second is the end of boundless liquidity from central banks. And the third is the growing fragility of financial markets. The first,
it's like capitalism doesn't work.
It's almost like capitalism is a fragile, tenuous system that requires the wage slavery of 90% of the population in order to steadily enrich the top 10% to a point that the environment all collapses around us. Almost like that, but not quite. He says, so the first shift was driven by the effects of the pandemic, as well as enormous handouts, causing demand surges well ahead of supply. I don't know this guy, so he may feel the enormous handouts or the $1,600 checks that were sent out. I see the enormous $1,200 checks.
No, wait, $600.
It was.
We were promised $1,200.
No, the first one was 12, and the next one was 600 or something like that.
I'm pretty sure it was 600 because I sure as shit never got a $1,200 check.
Neither did I, but I thought some people did.
I got a $600 check.
Anyway.
Okay.
Where's
my money?
Anyway, I would say the enormous handouts were in the form of trillions of dollars to Wall Street. So there were enormous handouts.
I'm curious what he means.
Yeah, I don't know what he means unless he's...
I mean, if he was Obama's dude, I assume he means that like somebody gave people free vaccines or so they could stay home from work if they had a debilitating illness. Maybe that's what he means.
So he says it became clear that the issue of supply stemmed from more than just patiemic. It's tied to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, right? No mention of NATO proxy war, etc. The Russia's invasion of Ukraine that resulted in sanctions and geopolitical tension.
That resulted in sanctions, as if it was a foregone conclusion.
Well, it was as if it was a natural disaster.
Right.
It was the Lord put forth sanctions on Russia, which he's kind of referencing, but they can't say it, have completely backfired to what the American empire thought would be the result.
Because we're going after a country that is far more economically stable and able to weather a storm than we usually go after. We usually go after the Afghanistans, the Iraq, the places
Syria,
that have already been beaten by imperialism and colonialism and their own civil strife and infighting. And that's not Russia. And so we're going after this bear, and now all of a sudden the US empire is like, oh shit. I feel like this is what everybody does with Russia. Like Napoleon did it, Hitler did it. Like, I'm gonna go after Russia, and then everybody either just dies of frostbite, or in this case, like economic frostbite. Like, you just keep doing it.
It's a lot of oh, we're gonna fucking take over Russia. I can't feel my fingers.
Yeah.
Is that a bad sign? There's a lot of that, but
why learning history is really important.
So he then says, making matters worse, these changes in the global economic landscape come at the same time that central banks are fundamentally altering their approach. As inflation soared, the Fed pivoted to aggressive rate hikes, with the last 4 increases all being 75 basis points. So here's something else that he's ignoring as he talks about the Fed increasing interest rates, is the Fed is doing that because workers now have a lot more power than they used to have. And the Fed is working on behalf of the ruling class to cause a recession intentionally, to cause people to lose jobs, and already tens of thousands are losing their jobs, so that corporate America is back to being in the driver's seat. Right now, workers are struggling the wheel away.
Yeah, they're gaining some, very little though in comparison. I mean,
but enough to spook the ruling class.
To scare, absolutely.
So yeah, markets have been trained to expect easy money from central banks, he said, and the perverse effect of that has been for a significant chunk of global financial activity to flood into asset management, private equity, and hedge funds, among other less regulated entities. So he's getting into the fragility of the markets. Moving forward, L. Arian concluded, these changes mean economic outcomes will be harder to predict, and it won't necessarily mean one simple outcome, but rather a reflection of the cascading effect. So I think what he's doing is he is one of the economists that represent, he worked for Obama, represent the ruling class. And he is kind of prepping all of us for how significant things are about to be. And to me, there's a lot that's unsaid, right? It's unsaid about workers gaining power, and so they're creating a recession to give corporate America the power back. It's unsaid that obviously the U.S. created this proxy war with Russia. It's unsaid that the sanctions are backfiring. So there's a lot going unsaid here, but there's still something important to get out of this, which is even the economists that represent our U.S. empire, that are the power elites, economists, even they are saying something very serious is on the horizon, and be ready for that. And this is another problem with capitalism, is we've kind of gutted all the communities that give us the resilience to be able to deal with storms, to be able to deal with struggles. All right, I'm going to move on to the next topic. I'm sorry, Eleanor had to step out. She'll be back in a minute. But I'll come back to the World Cup, topic. I want to jump to possibly killer robots being on the streets of America very soon. And this is not, I'm not kidding. I wish I were. It sounds like a joke, but this is coming out of San Francisco. Any of you live in San Francisco? You may have killer robots on your streets very soon. So in San Francisco, robots in San Francisco could be allowed to use deadly force soon. Now, keep in mind, they already exist. They just don't yet have deadly force on them. In a dystopian turn of events, the San Francisco Police Department is considering giving robots the license to kill. Last week, San Francisco's Rules Committee unanimously approved a version of a draft policy stating that robots can be used as a deadly force option when risk or loss of life to members of the public or officers is imminent and outweighs any other force option. I love that they added that, because do any of us really trust a robot to decide when it's time to use deadly force? I mean, not that I trust police officers to decide either, but do any of us think that whatever algorithms are running through that goddamn fucking hunk of tin, that it's going to get it right every time when it chooses to kill someone? Do we really think that? I mean, don't worry, folks. The fucking Teddy Ruxpin that we unleashed on the streets with a hand grenade in its paw. He's only going to throw that grenade. He's only going to pull the pin if he's certain that it's the last option. Okay? Have no fear. The original version of the bill did not mention robots until Aaron Peskin, the dean of the city's board of supervisors, initially added that robots shall not be used as use of force against any person. So the original version didn't even mention robots, even though the police department in San Francisco does have robots as part of their arsenal. However, the SFPD amended. So then he adds in, hey, listen, folks, robots can't be used to kill us. They can't use deadly force. No robot deadly force. And then the fucking San Francisco Police Department amended it, replaced it with a line that could give robots the authority to kill suspects if the life of public or police was at risk. I mean, and the life, like, could you imagine a fucking robot deciding if the life of a cop is at risk and then just murdering people? This is so beyond horrifying. Hold on, I gotta show you. And some of you don't realize what kind of robots we're talking about. So that's why I thought I'd show you a little bit of Boston Dynamics robots. These things, they're not, if you're picturing Roomba, these are not Roomba. These are fucking terrifying. And they were terrifying before we had legit city councils talking about deadly use of force. I mean, I couldn't even do that. This robot can spin and jump and do cartwheels that I can't do. Oh yeah, I've seen this one, but this is fucking horrifying. This thing starts walking outside, which doesn't really give you a lot of confidence when he leaves. It's just like, fucking out of here. I'm not hanging out with these goddamn rubes. And he just starts marching through the hills. Now, again, I cannot stress, I find that thing immensely terrifying without guns on its back. Like, I'm pretty sure it could punch you 39 times before you realize it had walked up on you. Before you even are like, hey, is that a robot? And your head is caved in immediately. So now picture these things. Yeah, like how easily do you think that thing could beat up the guy walking next to it? Now picture that with guns on it. So the SFPD replaces the line with a line that says you can't use deadly force. The equipment policy states that the SFPD currently has 17 remotely piloted robots, of which only 12 are functioning. Oh yeah, then this guy starts beating up the robot, which I don't think that's helping. Like, I think when they decide to come for us and just destroy everyone we love, I think it'll largely be because of this demonstration, where this guy decided to just keep poking him in the head with a hockey stick and knocking his box out of the way. Dude, give him his fucking box. Don't take his box. Like, this is why they're going to come after us, you asshole. In addition to granting robots the ability to use deadly force, the proposal also authorizes them for use in training and simulations, criminal apprehensions, critical incidents, exigent circumstances, executing a warrant, or during suspicious device assessments. Basically all of the times. Basically, you can use a robot all of the times. Again, they're leaving. I can't stress this enough. Boston Dynamic robots leave a lot. Like, every time they think they've got them in a room, they just walk out. But this article says that right now the police in San Francisco can already use robots for a lot of reasons. And the only thing that's new, or the thing that seems to be new, is the use of deadly force ability. It says the department's Q in. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I'm gonna ask you guys how to pronounce this, because I can guarantee I'm not gonna get it right. The department's Q in et to Q Talon. Hey, she's back.
Come back in here and you're speaking a different language?
Yes. Tell me how to pronounce this.
I just want to let everyone know that the cat's okay.
The cat did not get a CTE from a dive bombing the door.
And the baby's okay too.
So the department's, pronounce that.
Oh, this is some weird. This isn't a different. This is a different language, but this is some ones and zeros shit. Okay, that's terrifying. What was that?
So you missed. Unfortunately,
sorry.
Unfortunately, you missed the.
Just carry on.
You missed the General Dynamics video of this horrifying robot. Well, they can't see that.
Oh.
So I'm just showing you what they saw.
Okay.
So stop freaking out. Just relax. But this is what's out there.
Wow.
And they apparently,
like my dad
apparently they leave the building a lot, which is what, because they keep showing them leaving the building. I'm like, why are they leaving?
Terrifying.
And then another guy, starts picking on this one, which I feel like is a bad idea.
Dude, he's going to be the first to die. And you know what? I don't necessarily feel bad about, because that's just mean.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And when they come after us, it's going to be because of this. It's going to be because of this shit.
But that's fucking terrifying.
It's all terrifying. It's all terrifying.
You know, yes, I agree.
Okay. But these things now, they're talking about in San Francisco, giving them the use of deadly force. So the other part you missed is that they're considering.
Don't repeat things just for my account.
San Francisco's Rules Committee is considering this addition by the SFPD, saying that deadly force could be used to protect the life of citizens or cops.
Okay.
The draft policy will face the San Francisco Board of Supervisors on November 29th. Some robot makers like Boston Dynamics, which is the video I was just showing you, say they've signed a pledge not to weaponize the robots. How much do you trust their pledge? I want to know.
There's so why do they say that they need them in the first place?
Because these are tough times and the cops need a lot of robots to kill people.
This is a good question. Jean's asking how long their batteries stay charged.
I think I saw one that said 9 hours. Are you gonna outrun them for 9 hours?
I can barely run 2 miles, and then it's not very quickly. It's like a 13-minute mile.
I think they would be up on you and they would cave in my skull before I knew it was a robot. I'd be like, "What is that? That blurry thing." Oh.
Well, at least it'd be a quick death.
Yeah. So, but. And the other thing that's hilarious about this is at first when they were writing this thing, whatever this draft policy was, robots weren't even mentioned in it until the guy added a note that said robots could not use deadly force. And then the SFPD went in and changed it so that they could use deadly force if the life of the public or the police are at risk.
Which is perfectly vague. Yeah. On purpose.
Well, why would you ever trust this algorithm? So there's something else to get to a deeper issue other than, I'm sure other people are talking about this story, but the deeper issue is, so we have a police force that is racist at its heart. And I don't just mean that they're individually racist. I mean, the system, if you look at the numbers, is racist. The laws are racist. So what makes you think the algorithms that are put inside these robots are also not racist? On top of that, this system is classist in the sense that they see a poor person, they're far more likely to harass or attack that poor person. You have any idea how long a nicely dressed investment banker could sleep on a bench down by Wall Street for years and the cops would not harass him? But you go down there and you have a dirty coat on, and very different. So do you not think that the algorithms put into these robots are going to
reflect the society they're a part of.
Reflect the society they're part of.
Yeah.
That was better said than I was going to say it. Well done.
That's the only thing I'm going to say well tonight.
All right. Anything more about our lovely robot
most of it,
for future?
Will abstain. I abstain.
No. Your thoughts are your thoughts.
There's not much there at the moment.
There's not much in the thought tank.
I'm a bit on the struggle bus at the moment. So carry on.
But this also represents like the way we use technology in our system is in our society and in capitalism is it's for profit, but it's for the ruling class. It's to entrench their power, which is the policing system. So these type of robots, the stuff I was just showing from Boston Dynamics that are unbelievably sophisticated, where do they go first? They go to the military and then go to the police. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're immediately, well, let's put those robot dogs out there to make sure every homeless person has a meal. Like, they're not used to help people. They're used to entrench the power structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, technology is not inherently bad. It's like you could kill someone with a hammer, but that doesn't mean that a hammer can't also be used to build a house. And so I think that the concept of technology moving forward in and of itself is not bad. It's horrifying within the system that we have.
Right. In our system, it's used for these things first, whereas in a different system, which, I'm a big fan of Zeitgeist, and a lot of what they talk about is advanced technology being used for good.
Also, so if these robots, do we need police anymore, though? Like, are they just going to take over for police?
I mean, yeah, if we could send all the police people home, that'd be nice.
But then you're still dealing with killer cops.
Yeah,
they're robot killer cops.
Well, also it'd be so much easier. They already don't actually blame police, and that when something goes wrong, when someone's murdered,
like a robotic defect.
Yeah, then they could just pawn it off on the road. That was crazy. It's kind of like Musk with his auto self-driving cars. Which I do believe we'll get to self-driving cars at some point, but maybe you shouldn't put on the road while they're still decapitating people.
I can't really get into the whole self-driving car thing because I just
because it's too fun.
Well, I don't want to relinquish. Gun it. I don't want to relinquish control over the situation.
I felt the same for social media. I don't want to relinquish control of my life to these platforms, but done it anyway. Here we are.
But you're less likely to be decapitated.
True.
In that scenario.
True. Facebook rarely decapitates people. That's true.
I mean, it deplatforms you, but not decapitates you.
Right. Okay, so let's get to another story here. Everyone's talking about the World Cup, so I figured what we got to do it as well. But perhaps we're doing the story that not everyone is talking about.
No, this is not on CNN.
This is said popularresistance.org. The World Cup is brought to you by abused migrant workers. I'm not sure if this was an ad during the World Cup. In a full-throated defense of it gets even fucking crazier. I don't know if you're gonna be able to handle this. In a full-throated defense of the 2022 World Cup host nation Qatar, FIFA president Gianni Infantino, so this is the head of the organization that brings the World Cup there, said in a press conference on Saturday, "Today I feel Qatari. Today I feel Arab. Today I feel African. Today I feel gay. Today I feel disabled. Today I feel a migrant worker because I know what it means to be discriminated and to be bullied."
Is he any of those things?
Doesn't really matter. I don't think. I'm just saying that because even if he were one of those things, let's say he were disabled, it wouldn't make any of the other things okay.
No. I was just wondering if he had been a...
This is a white guy. Okay. Italian Swiss white football administrator making millions a year.
So how does he know what it means
from these images, does not appear to be handicapped except severely bald.
So how does he know what it means to be discriminated against?
Because people have been criticizing the way that various things at the World Cup, either the way they've treated people or what they're doing or whatever.
Also, did he just mean to say black and say African?
I don't know.
Because there are white Africans.
Yeah, there are.
So then, okay.
I don't know.
Today I feel disabled. That's amazing. Today I feel gay.
But did you gather that because people have criticized the World Cup, this guy now feels gay?
I mean, Lee, I have heard of things turning people gay. I didn't realize that protesting the World Cup could turn people gay. But this might actually be a powerful tactic that we have now. We can turn people gay by protesting the World Cup.
That is pretty interesting. Or turn them disabled. We can lop them off at the knees simply by protesting. But
wow.
So he's saying that insane quote because people have criticized the World Cup.
So bizarrely.
Criticizing the West and Europe in particular for migration policies, corporate profiteering off of Gulf oil, and what we Europeans have been doing for 3,000 years around the world, Infantino tried to draw attention away from multiple controversies plaguing the 2022 World Cup.
Was he saying that
I think
Europe is imperialist?
Well, I think he was saying we've had these terrible migration policies for 3,000 years, and you're blaming the World Cup, I guess. Is what he's saying? It's all very awful. But weirdly, his quote is not the reason I brought up the story.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. I wasn't telling you not to talk about it. I'm saying his quote is so insane.
Really trying to understand.
His quote is so insane that it's almost a story of its own.
Is he not getting shit for this?
Oh, I'm sure he is. I don't watch the mainstream soccer coverage, but I'm sure he is. FIFA, the governing body for world soccer, is expected to bring in 6.5 billion with a B revenue from this year's World Cup.
Yeah, that sounds like a disabled migrant worker to me.
That don't you feel gay when you hear that number? A 25% jump from the 2018 games. Infantino himself made $3.2 million in 2019 alone, so he's making millions a year. Meanwhile, so this is the part I wanted to get to, and the mainstream might have mentioned abused workers, but this is worse than just abused. Over 6,500 workers have reportedly died in construction during the games. Construction for the games since the World Cup was awarded in 2010 to Qatar, which, by the way, a huge American ally. Like, we launched most of the destruction of Iraq, the invasion of Iraq, from Qatar, reflecting widespread safety hazards and labor abuses. I don't even know how you kill 6,500 workers. I can't even imagine what goes on. It seems like there would have to be lots of automatic weapons involved, but
it's actually just a, like the thing that you see them push trees into that turns the trees into wood chips. They have those, but for people.
For migrants, yeah. Migrant laborers have been forced to pay billions of dollars in fees since 2011 to, quote, recruitment agencies in order to secure jobs at companies contracted to build the stadiums in which national teams will compete over the course of the tournament. So what this is these companies that are building these stadiums, they all use migrant workers because they're far cheaper. And they get these migrants from various countries in Asia and stuff. And in order to get that job so that they can make money for a year and send it home or whatever, they go to these recruitment agencies and are put into debt. It's basically indentured servitude, aka slavery, where they're put into debt for these recruitment agencies, and often they have a lot of time ever paying their way out. So they could think they're going, they could think they're going for a lot of wage theft. They could think they're going for a year and then find out they can't actually pay their ability to get out for 5 years. So it's a lot of that type of shit that goes on. Workers have faced non-payment of wages for up to a year, wage theft, severe mental health issues, 14-hour workdays, and a range of other abuses and poor conditions. Also, we can watch a soccer game. Isn't that amazing? Just all so we can see a guy kick a ball. And in a fucking sport where half the time it ends like 0-1.
The scoring is
that's
really
my real issue.
I understand.
Yes.
I understand.
Can we get lots of points going on for the love of fuck?
The least you could do for the dead migrant workers is make it a 20+ point game.
Look, there's an understandable argument to be made that on the other side of it, you have like the NBA where people score 100 points and it's boring until the last 5 minutes because they just go back and forth at the same score all the way until the last 10 minutes, and then they really try.
Which is why baseball is better than both of those sports.
So you can, oh God, baseball's also pretty boring.
Oh my God, you're boring.
So you can make the argument that basketball is too much of this just endless scoring, but on the other side you have soccer where it's like 0-0. All right, Jesus.
I agree. Soccer is pretty boring.
Which is not the point of our discussion here.
Not.
So if you violently disagree with us on that point, you should still hear the other stuff we're saying.
Even if it's a really exciting game, this is still not worth it, I think, is our point here.
Among the findings of this human rights organization's recent report, it said if we complain, we are fired. There's reports of forced labor, workplace violence, health and safety issues, and nationality-based discrimination. The report is based on conversations with about 1,000 workers conducted over the past 3 years. Supervisors would hit us, one said, in front of other workers to pressure us to work faster and complete our work on time. This physical abuse was never addressed. You could report, but nothing would happen because the perpetrators were supervisors. The perpetrators were generally the ones you were supposed to report it to.
Right, of course.
So,
proper channels. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, proper channels always work. Temperatures in Qatar can exceed 110 degrees throughout the season between May and September.
That's fucking insane.
Conditions in Qatar's lead up to the World Cup have been under fire for years since the country was awarded the Games in 2010 and are part of a more general set of labor problems under the Gulf's kafala system. This labor regime closely ties the low-wage migrant workers that the region's economy depends on to their employers and leaves them with almost no voice and subject to massive abuses. Human rights groups have reported that up to 10,000 migrant workers from South Asia, the Philippines, and other countries die in the Gulf each year, which I did the maths, roughly 1 an hour.
Wow, that's fucking insane.
Or more than one, actually, more than 1 an hour.
Oh, Jesus. That's awful.
And apparently to exit the country, you have to get permission from your employer.
It's like in Saudi Arabia. They have a similar system where they'll steal their passports and then they have to basically work as slaves in their homes and they don't let them go back and they have to get permission to leave. Yeah, it's fucking horrific. Right.
Some of that goes on. I don't know how common it is. Some of that goes on in America where people have a immigrant live-in housekeeper or maid or whatever, nanny or something, that they basically threaten that, if you don't stay with us and work for almost nothing, then we'll report you. But anyway, so this is kind of what you aren't seeing as you watch the soccer games. And it's just amazing the level of abuse that goes on to put on a game so a bunch of fellas can kick a ball.
Wow. That's awful.
Folks, we got more stories for you, but we are headed over to rumble.com/Lee Camp. For those of you watching there, nothing will change. You can just keep watching there. But we hope you'll join us. It's free to go to rumble.com/Lee Camp and watch there. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. I'll say it one more time like I just did. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. And free to go watch there. We got more stories for you. We're going to keep going. We hope you will join us. We will see you there. And if you really, really don't want to join us there, then I hope you will still become a member at leecamp.net. But all right, let's keep on moving here in 1 second. I just got to do this.